Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently Wednesday, October 19th, 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 363. And this is the second attempt at the intro because in the first attempt at the intro, for some reason, I just dropped the F-bomb. I was like, ladies and mother beep, gentlemen! I was like, just really excited to start this daily. I mean, we were starting it on time at 7:05, and then I thought that was so tasteless of me that I better make it a little bit more Day 9 of me. Get it? And the chat is getting the joke. Alright, I couldn't tell if it was the time delay between me talking and you receiving, or whether it was just... or whether people were just going, oh. One of the two. Definitely one of the two. In very exciting news, upcoming week's Fun Day Monday will be on Monday, and it will be a Euro week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will be at 10 a.m. PST and 7 p.m. CEST. And that Fun Day Monday topic is the following. You may not expand on your half of the map. That's it. Pure and plain and simple. I want many people to submit those replays. Fun Day Monday admins. I'm talking to you, Marth Vader. If you could all have those sent in by Sunday, so that way I can prepare Sunday evening and wake up Monday morning bright and early to do the Day 9 frickin' daily. That would be great. You might wonder, is anything fun happening over the weekend? Yeah, BlizzCon is. I'm going to be there. So pick up a ticket. If you can, come say hi. Ugh. You know, one thing that's kind of weird about... I tried to rearrange the camera, the light, so you can kind of see... I want you to look right here. You see how when I turn, you can see the light sort of changing? I changed the angle a little bit, so right here, it looks like I have the biggest circles under my eyes ever. I just noticed that. Wow, look at that. Hey, you guys, look, if I turn my head this way, it actually looks like I have a black eye, but when I turn it like that... there's like, right at this angle, it actually looks like I have had an eye patch on for a long time and it's darkened. This is so cool. Holy crap, that's awesome. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in total exhaustion, bro, I'm going to begin the daily. What on earth is the topic today? Well, once upon a time, there was a man named Gatored who went on over to IEM New York that was happening at the exact same time as MLG Orlando. Now, I will say MLG Orlando probably drew pretty much everyone's attention because that tournament was out of control epic with, of course, Hux win, Idra demolishing top Korean Terran after top Korean Terran after top anyone of any race ever. And, you know, some old names did well, some new names did well. It was just epic. And quietly, you just ended up seeing Gatored 3-0 OGS top at that tournament. Absolutely crush. So it was very, very surprising to see, you know, again, players as good as top losing to players like Gatored who are good but have never made a big win. Again, it's not that Gatored is not up to that caliber, but he's never really gotten the chance to be revealed and unveiled. So we're actually going to take a look at him today. We're going to be looking at two games of his. The first game is going to be this one that he played against OGS Top on warp speed mode, apparently, on Shakura's Plateau. And what we're going to see here is Gatored is going to suffer a bunch of early pressure, but he's going to defend it reasonably, and then he's going to go ahead and take a win. In the second game, we're going to look at something almost the same thing. He's going to take an early... he's going to take some early damage, but he's going to end up losing. So we just want to end up seeing the contrast between those games with the sound on. So let's go ahead and begin looking at things right off the bat, just from Gatored's point of view at the outset of the game. Just a couple of things that get me excited right off the bat. Notice... placement right immediately is starting to constrict movement. There will be a Hellion drop in a little bit, and that Hellion drop is going to have a hard time getting back here behind the probes, and it's going to help tremendously. This is something that I've actually been trying to think about a lot. Do I want my assimilators here or here? Generally, I try to do the farther inward assimilator. I try to do this one rather than this one, just because this one's a little bit easier to harass from a Banshee, or something like that, or if it was against Zergs from Mutalisks. So he just spots his Terran, spots the gas. And we're actually going to see Gatored not get too much information, but I still think he will make some very good decisions. Immediately building the cybernetics core. Oh, awesome. Look at this, starting to continue to constrict. We have this pylon that is extending along the right side, and all good Protoss players will do this following technique. And remember, if you do it once, it's a trick. If you do it a whole bunch of times, it is a technique. So this is the technique that we were going to see this player do. Gatored is going to be building these pylons so that they barely don't touch each other in terms of powering up. Obviously, if you have a pylon like this, you don't want to get Artosis pyloned and have all your main structures here and lose that. It's fine to build a couple extra pylons here, but pylons like this, where you just need supply like that, continuing to build stuff like this, really far spread out, and just the general rule is making sure it just barely doesn't touch. So I'm briefly going to come back here because it looks like something may have crashed. Marky, if everything's looking alright, let me know. It seemed that something may have gone awry, but if it's not, whatever. Anyways, let's just go ahead and come back to the game. So good pylon spread there. All's good. Now, Gatored is actually not going to really do much with this pylon from here on out, and I think that this is kind of important to note, because it's so easy to, look at the interaction. Let me even remove the production tab to look at the interaction between what Gatored's doing, what Top is doing, and then to justify in an after-the-fact fashion. But we're actually going to see Gatored just straight up go for a semi-early expand here with the Warp Gate. He's going to end up building that Zealot first, and he still has not really seen much of anything. The Zealot is still positioning itself nicely, do a little bit of aggression. He spots that one, SCV. Does a little bit of good damage. And that probe that ended up walking up and getting killed by 3 Marines, I actually think is a pretty important point in the gameplay. Let's actually back up. Go to the Gatored cam. This is super important. Pushing with a Zealot and an early Stalker is, in general, a very good technique against someone who's teching. Let's think about the opposite. Why is it bad versus someone who's not teching? Versus a not teching player, he'll have Marauders with slow a good percentage of the time. Simple as that. Against a player who is teching, well, he'll probably just have Marines, which are very easy to micro against when they don't have the upgrades. With the Stalker, everything's very easy. The Zealot can do a lot of damage to the Marines. Even if he's walled in, you can poke in and out. Liquid Hero does this quite a lot. And in fact, many players will take this to kind of an extreme. And if they see their opponent going for some sort of fast gas build, they will devote all their Chrono Boost to Stalkers being morphed out of that gateway. Like 100% of the Chrono Boost will go into that, just so they can up the harassment. But of course, there's this odd debate you can have with yourself of, does he have the Marauders with Concussive Shell, or as I call it, with Slow? And this little trick, just moving up here with the probe, is very easy determination on that, and I really think that Gatored should absolutely start being aggressive right now. And he goes ahead and expands regardless. And then he doesn't attack, which I actually think is like a total mistake. Alright, cool. Now, let's come on over to OGS Top, because OGS Top is going to 1-1-1. Ayo! This is actually a really easy build to get. Alright, so what we're going to see OGS Top to do is he's going to... actually, let me word it this way. The 1-1-1 is usually just a lot of Banshees, a lot of tanks, a lot of Marines, go for it. Any opening that you do that transitions into that has to do a lot of damage. Or you either just have to do it straight. What OGS Top is going to do is do this big harassment at the start, where he drops with Hellions, and then all he's ever going to do is pull right back to that good old Banshee action. Now, Gatored does something that I think is very wise. He's going to cut workers. Or, damn it, he's not going to cut workers, alright? Don't listen to me. He's going to cut units. These are the only 2 units he's going to make. If for some reason you think that your opponent is doing a big tech, you don't actually need a lot of Zealots and Stalkers right off the bat. You need a lot of units later on, and gateways take forever to build. This is so huge to do, to cut all these units and to get these 3 structures out. Sometimes you can do 3 gateways. Sometimes you can do 2 gateways in a robo. Against tech, I think that the 2 gateways in a robo is a little bit more common, but the important thing in my eyes is that he is building no units and getting these really, really quickly. Otherwise, you won't quite have enough units to be able to do stuff. Case in point, coming up right now. We see this Hellion drop is about to happen. If he did not cut units, he would not have had these 3 warp gates done in time. These gateways would be finishing up in a little bit. But because he does have them all done, he can easily warp in enough to be able to help semi-defend him. I say semi because we're going to see this unit's loss tab start to really rack up. So, the ring around the rosy play occurs. Oh goodness, how tragic everything is feeling at this point in time. We even have the Marine drop coming in. A lot of damage done to Gatored. A lot. And in the Gatored cam, he does not even have... Well, hell, we need to go to the unit counting station. Absolutely no observer in the slightest. Now, this is generally where players will say to themselves, I am screwed, I have lost so many probes, I'm behind my opponent in probes if I have that clairvoyance. Oh no, he's now going 1-1-1, what do I ever do? Woe is me, and all that jazz. We're going to end up seeing Gatored do some good stuff. Do some very, very smart thinking. First of all, let me note that anytime you see Hellion drops come into your base and do a lot of damage, your opponent is kind of automatically fucked at that point in time. And I do want to use the F word. I do want to drop the F-bomb, and I know all the fathers who have their 3-year-old daughters with the headphones on watching just cringe with me, but it's important that your 3-year-old daughters know that the Terran players are really screwed when they open up Blue Flame Hellion drop, or just regular Hellion drop. Because that is a long time of the factory with no add-on. That's a long time of the starport building the medevac and not doing anything else. That's 2 full structures, a factory and a starport, being devoted to just that one attack that may have done some damage. So really, the Terran is probably in a pretty rough spot. And if we actually come back, there's a tab I didn't open up for a while. That's the Units tab. Look at this. Generally, you end up seeing that 1-1-1 come at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And here we only have 5 Marines. Well, gee, that's going to be pretty small of a timing attack. And Gatored, and we're actually also going to see Top continue to press onward. I do think that he probably should have had these sentries over here with a Zealot or 2, and the Zealots back here, or Stalker back here. But with just some nice control trickery, he successfully manages to defend himself. Now, one of the big tips that I would always say is make a lot more observers than you need after you've suffered from some harassment. Plenty more observers than one will need. And I also want to keep this production tab open for a little bit. I can expect at a time like this that Gatored is feeling under a lot of pressure, trying to make a lot of... Actually, let me pull back here. While this harassment is going on, I want you to direct your eyes up to the probe production count. So, let's see, this is right after, yep, this is right after the push finally pulled away. Let's actually come here and just look at the probe production for a little while. And we'll wait until he actually sees what's going on. It's pretty much consistently 2. Not that many units being made, but a lot of probes being made. Having a little bit of attacking going on, and when the attacking goes on in the main, we appropriately see that sort of cutting going on. And then this moment in time occurs where good old Gosu Gatored is going to see that his opponent is doing the 1-1-1, and he's going to follow up magnificently. In particular, he's going to actually completely cut probe production. He's at 33 probes. And I think this is one of these fundamental things that you really kind of have to do when you are up against a 1-1-1. You should probably be cutting a good amount of workers and just flooding with units and building as many units as quickly as you can, just getting volume of stuff out. And the big thing that we're going to see Gatored use is a lot of Zealots, and he's going to get a ton of them out at a very quick pace, largely because he's spending Chrono Boost on all his gateways. So I want to look at the Chrono Boost distribution for a moment here. Chrono Boost starts to get a little bit saved up. There's a little bit of disorganization from Gatored. And this extra gateway, I think, is really important as well focusing everything on the unit production. In fact, a lot of players nowadays are just preferring to get the 4 gateways when they expand and get the robo and do nothing with the gateways. Just get them. Just do that. I think the biggest mistake that Protoss players make nowadays, actually I'll say this and then we'll step into a break. I am a firm believer in the following statement. The biggest mistake that Protoss players are currently doing is constantly building out of their gateways. I think that is the biggest mistake that many Protoss players are doing. And I have been saying this a lot lately, and I think it is a really big key to playing Protoss properly. With the warp gate mechanic, it is not just that they can warp in wherever you want, it's that it warps in instantly. And then you begin to cool down. And then you can warp in again. So it's the inverse of the way that other production structures work. And what that means is that if you see an army, you can warp in, hold on a little bit, and then warp in again. And you can like double the size of your army almost immediately. So I think the biggest mistake that Protoss players are doing lately is building out of their warp gates constantly and not exploiting this properly. And in particular, when you are not building constantly, you can afford things like adding in yet more production. I am going to go ahead and take a quick break while you all think about that, and when we come back, we'll see Gatored hold off the attack and jump into part number 2.